hot fat guys, gals, non-binary, and trans pals. This is Alex Frankel from the Hot Fat Guy Club here for yet another episode of the Hot Fat Guy Club podcast and another hot fat chat. This time with a very dear friend of mine, Varun Jindal. Varun, how the fuck are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me as a fellow hot fat guy. I've been waiting for this moment. Can't wait to get into it.
Awesome. So Varun, really happy you're the first person I've had on the show since we've started doing the Hot Fat Chats who I actually know and have known for a while. Otherwise, it's been new members and new friends. So it's nice to have an old friend on the show. Um, Before we dive in and really start talking about it, give us a little bit of your hot fat guy.
Yeah, yeah. I have identified as a hot fat guy for a majority of my life. And, I think other identifiers that come to mind, I am really proud to be South Asian. Both my parents are from India. And yeah, it's something that I've always had such deep passions for different things, including fashion. And it's something that, I always have actively looked out for and kept an eye out for men who are bigger and who are leading the charge in the world of style. And, I am really grateful to have people in my life where it hasn't necessarily seeped its way, and some of the insecurities and societal stuff that hot fat guys deal with. I'm very grateful that my inner circle has, protected me from that. And
Mhm.
I think, grown each passing year, each passing decade, moment, life chapter, to embody and get more and more comfortable authentically with who I am. Authenticity is something that is often preached. It is certainly a cornerstone of mine. It is embodied in all the things I do, and so I'm really happy to sit here today, more comfortable and more confident in my hot fat guy self than I have since I was maybe younger.
All right, so let's go back to your younger self. Have you always been a bigger guy?
Yeah, pretty much since I would say high school, maybe
Mm-hmm.
middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that, yeah, as long as I can remember, I was always, a bigger kid. And, it was something that I navigated through university as
Mm-hmm.
well. But, I think with the right tribe and like the people in your life, like it never kept me back from exploring different parts of my life creatively, romantically, socially. Um, but it's a reality. It's a world that we live in. We all navigate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely. I'm certainly no stranger to it. It's definitely not
Mm-hmm.
something new.
And this is something that we haven't really talked about on the show much before, but what was the moment, like was there a specific moment when you had that realization that like I am bigger, I am fatter than everyone else, like I am different. When did that come for you? Because that came for me. I there were two particular moments and they happened in the same summer. It was I was at Disney World when I was like 9 years old with
Mhm.
my piece of shit Uncle David. And I remember I wanted to get one of those like Toll House cookie ice cream sandwiches. You know the ones
Mhm.
I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And David, I'm gonna say some mean things about David because he's a terrible fucking person. He's the kind of guy who stands
Go
outside of
for it.
abortion clinics with baby blankets.
Yeah.
The audacity of this fucking man to tell me that I had to lose weight as a 9 year old at fucking Disney World when this dude was been built like a bowling ball for his whole life. We do not claim him at the Hot Fat Guy Club. He's a terrible fat guy. We do not claim him. This motherfucker looked at me and was like, nah, man, you're too fat. You need to lose weight. Motherfucker, you're 5'4" and you weigh almost 400 pounds. And you're a terrible person. Go fuck yourself. It doesn't matter your size or what you look like when you're a hot fat guy, when you're actually a good person who possesses empathy.
Mhm.
You don't have, like, this motherfucker was literally there at January 6th. Okay? We do not claim him. Fuck him. Anyway, sorry, that was a tangent.
No,
Um,
we all have one in our
but
lives.
uh, He told me I was fat and I had to lose weight when I wanted to get an ice cream sandwich on the happiest place on earth when I was 9 years old. And then it was 3 weeks later, I was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire with some family. And I remember walking past a particularly reflective window and noticing for the first time that I had man boobs. And that was like the moment the glass broke. And I was like, maybe all my bullies have been right this whole time. And that was not a particularly happy moment, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
did you have that like aha moment, not a good aha, but that like, oh my god, I am actually different moment?
Yeah.
And if you did, what was that like for you?
Yeah, now that I think about it, I think some moments come to mind. Um, I, in high school, dabbled in wrestling, for a little bit. And it was the first time I did something that was, like a sport, and it felt like something that, an extracurricular that wasn't necessarily rooted in the arts.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, when the time came for like what class or category of people that you'll sort of be facing up against. I on one end there was kind of an insecurity of where will I be categorized,
Mm-hmm.
but then it melted away because it gave me a challenge to be around other men who were my size.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to, I don't know, I was able to just embrace that, the fear, which is very much like kind of a locker room fear, and
Mm-hmm.
and everything that luckily I think melted away because it's one of the few sports that embraces larger bodies,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think another, I think, part that comes to mind is, as I mentioned earlier, I have such a deep love and passion for fashion and
Mm-hmm.
style, and I always was curious in how to experiment and try different things with my look. And I never necessarily, even to this day, don't get the freedom to flex that as much,
Yep.
because of what's available in the market.
Yep.
And so I think that for me was probably a place where I felt, even to this day, that I'm being held back. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like, do I need to just become a designer, even though I have
Mm-hmm.
zero background in fashion? Do I need to become a designer and create in my own line?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that what we've come to? Is that on me? That's going to be on my shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the other one for me was, I think the third one kind of has like a health lens to it. Is a couple of years ago I didn't know I had this underlying heart condition, and the first thing in my mind goes to, well, I wonder if it's because of my weight, and I wonder if it's because of my size. And so quickly it was addressed by an amazing cardiologist at in NYU, where he was like, even if you get fit and you find yourself at a lower BMI and you wave the magic wand and you do all the things, he's like, I have countless patients who have this, who they run 5Ks, they run half marathons. It's just a part of them.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to align those expectations pretty quickly. And it just shows how visceral and how like it's in our like wiring,
Mm-hmm.
that like we're so quick, even ourselves, even people who are leading full lives, people who are very confident and comfortable in who they are, it's in our wiring to think, oh, it has to be because of my weight,
Yeah.
And so all of that to be said, I think those are kind of three different examples at three different life stages that kind of showcase a little bit of my journey there.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I want to start with wrestling because I also wrestled in high school and it was one of the few sports that I did not stick with. When I was a freshman, I did wrestling to help me get better at football. And I was the only heavyweight on our wrestling team until like halfway through the season when this senior came in and joined the team.
Hmm.
And I went defeated because I was the only heavyweight, I was the varsity heavyweight.
Mm.
And I got a varsity letter my freshman year for wrestling,
Yeah.
despite losing literally every single match that I wrestled, because I
Yeah.
was a freshman who did not have the strength of a junior or a senior, and quite
Or
frankly,
training.
or
Yeah.
training. And quite frankly, when you wrestle heavyweights, skill doesn't matter. It's whoever gets on top first wins. Um, and I also will never forget how duped I felt after my first couple weeks of wrestling, when I thought it would be like wrestling.
Yeah.
No, it was essentially cross country with
Yeah.
like 20 minutes of mat work. We just fucking
Mhm.
ran, and we ran so much. Oh my God, we ran so much, and I
Yeah.
hated it.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
not a big fan of the running. I'll swim. I'll spend the whole day in the water, but I hate running.
oh yeah, it was terrible. Yeah, wrestling was, oh, I couldn't. The if I remember correctly, the heavyweight class in California was 225 to 275 with like a 15-pound allowance above that. And then for
Mm.
all of the other weight classes below, there was a 2-pound allowance plus or minus. And I could
Mm.
never, I tried so hard to get under 223 to be able to wrestle 215. So I would even have a
Mm.
shot at even winning a rate or winning
Mm.
a
Mm.
match. And I could never get under 225. So here I am at 225 pounds as a freshman, wrestling dudes that are like 280 and have scholarships to go play fucking
Mm.
football at Pac-10 colleges, because I grew up in California, and like everyone's going
Mhm.
to Cal or Oregon or Washington or USC or whatever.
Right.
I just got my ass kicked over and over and over again.
Was it a desire to, like, let me just get a win on the board, or was it like, hey,
Oh, I'm fiercely competitive, and losing makes me want to die. And so consistently, it not only consistently getting my ass kicked in every match, but also just like not feeling like I was contributing to the team because I wasn't getting us any points towards winning the cumulative match for the
Mm.
team.
Mm.
And I fucking hate losing. And I mention that I fucking hate losing? Like, I'm the type of guy who,
Mhm.
when I play Monopoly, I will relentlessly cheat the whole time at the expense of friendships in order to win the game, because that's
Interesting.
also how Monopoly is meant to be played.
Interesting. I
For
don't know. You definitely don't give that vibe off though.
Because I've worked very hard to try to cull that out of my personality, because it is not a desirable trait in human life. And I probably have swung a little too far onto the other side of the pendulum, where I need a little bit more of that cutthroat hatred
Mm.
of losing in my real life. But especially going into like when I was in the in the music and performance opera world and modeling world and all that, like, you can't be a good colleague if you're that cutthroat.
Yeah.
And I take a lot of pride in being a fantastic fucking colleague. And I think, to my own detriment to a certain extent, I let that competitive part of me go. But it's still there when it comes to playing games, or any
Mm.
like sport things. Or I don't really play Monopoly with people anymore, because again, it ruins friendships. But my cousin and I play a game of one-on-one Monopoly at
Is that the
Thanksgiving every
like
year.
Monopoly Go with the
No, 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 no,
cards?
no, 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 no.
Oh,
This is classic
the
Monopoly,
board.
but we
Yeah,
play
yeah,
it like chess. All right, so it
yeah.
is just him and I, and the
Yeah.
whole.
Okay.
So when you play Monopoly in a group of friends, it is inevitable, whether you're a relentless dickhead like me or just a regular person. Monopoly ruins friendships. This is a great
Yeah.
great endorsement for the game. Monopoly, Parker Brothers, sponsor us. Monopoly ruins friendships,
I
and
agree.
um, I figured out that Monopoly is a lot more fun when you indulge the social contract of, our job is to fucking destroy each other, and you just lean into it. And also, the game's over in less than an hour when you play it one-on-one like chess, because everyone buys up everything on the board. You just
Yeah.
go around, you buy everything, and then it turns into like a negotiation game, and pretty much the game can end on one turn. And so my cousin Cameron and I do this every year, and I relentlessly cheat and advertise that I'm going to relentlessly cheat for the whole
Yeah.
game. And I'm begging you to catch me essentially, and I'm sneaky, so
Yeah.
nobody ever catches me.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. There was this particular year. It was the third year. Cam had won a game. I had won a game. This year was the tiebreaker, and we did Thanksgiving at my aunt's house, and we go over there, and I had taken like $2,000 in Monopoly money out of the box and hid it in my pockets and my shoes. I had a couple community chest cards. I had a couple chance cards that I had just like loaded up on. And my uncle had bought us a town, like a town themed Monopoly game, and ruined my whole cheating escapade. And then he like forces us to use that game, and then my cousin Cam pulls out like a couple grand of Monopoly money and throws it on the table. And I was like, where the fuck did you get that? And my partner Kelly gave it to him to even the playing field a
There
little
you go.
bit. It was very funny.
Everyone conspiring against you.
I mean, everyone conspiring against everyone, let's be real.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, yeah, I'm, I don't like losing. So that's why I was like trying to get under that weight allowance. And also I was getting hurt a lot because I was wrestling against guys that had 50, 60 pounds on me and were a lot
Sure.
stronger than me and were just kicking my ass.
Yeah, yeah.
Now getting back to fashion, because that is a huge thing. I had an experience recently. I modeled for I did a photo shoot for a brand that I'm not going to name, but it was a very large brand. Every single person here has shopped at this company, has shopped at this brand. We probably all own things from this store. And it was the most uncomfortable I've ever been on set in my entire life. And I have done some weird fucking things on sets. And the reason why I was so uncomfortable, every single garment that I wore was in fabrics, made of fabrics that I would never buy personally. And all of the sizes were just wrong. Um, the pants were falling off of me while I was doing it. It accentuated every one of my curves and rolls and lumps that I don't, like to see on camera. And because of the way we were shooting it and because of the way the clothes hung, there was no amount of posing or anything that I could do to kind of combat that. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm just like, they don't understand this audience at all. They're making all of this stock that none of us are going to buy because
Yeah.
it's not flattering. It doesn't look good. There's no, the few options that do exist for fat guys like us don't take into consideration or have the people in the room who have the lived experience of being in a body like this to
Yeah.
actually know what we want. And it's
Right.
so frustrating when there are so few options for us to even choose from, that when they're of subpar quality, that like we're alienated even by the brands that cater to us, and there are so few of them in the first place. And
Yeah.
it's so frustrating. Like when we did our first merch line, and we're going to have another merch line coming soon. I've been working on shirt designs all day. The very first thing, I went through about 15 different blanks for t-shirts before I found the ones that I liked. And because I had certain criteria of they had to go up to a certain size, and they
Mhm.
had to be of a certain thickness and with a large screen print on the front, so that it kind of gives you a certain amount of streamlining and a certain amount of sveltness. Like I love a large screen print on the front because it there's a uniformness to the shape, right? And there's a certain thickness of fabric because one, if the fabric isn't thick enough, it's going to show every single sweat line and sweat spot, and two, it's not going to maintain its shape at all.
Mhm.
And when I finally found the correct blanks, it was such a blessing because I was like, oh my God, finally, I've spent so much time, I've spent so much money, and I finally have something that I actually feel confident offering to the people in my community, because
Mhm.
the last thing I want is to sell a garment to someone that makes them feel worse about their body. And
Yeah.
that's the experience that I have 99% of the time when I go shopping, is that
Mhm.
every single thing that I try on makes me feel shittier about myself.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking frustrating. Like if I could just walk around in my underwear and a pair of shoes, I would do that because I feel so much more confident in my meat sack, in its base form than I
Hmm.
do when I have clothes on that don't fit me well or don't create a silhouette that actually makes me feel good. And like,
Yep.
I'm not a nudist, but if I could just be naked everywhere, I would feel so much better because
Yeah.
I'm more proud of what I have, flaws and all, than some shitty made shirt, suit, whatever that was not made with me in mind, but was made as a fucking afterthought by most of these brands.
Yep. I agree. And it, whether you're talking about it on the athleisure side or sportswear or like everyday casual or formal wear, right? And understandably, there are nuances for each category, but it's also not rocket science. And especially in the age of AI now, there's zero excuse. There is no
Mm-hmm.
reason why that isn't readily available.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we see it in media, we see it in entertainment, we see it in shows, we see it in movies. When people feel seen, and when people feel a sense of representation, they feel seen, they feel understood. It not only drives good vibes and it drives positivity, it drives business results. Like, look, I'm not here, you know, preaching everyone needs to be a nonprofit. Like, it leads to business results.
Yeah.
And we've seen it, just some small examples come to mind, whether it's in the beauty industry, whether it's, I know Fenty has done some really some work there. And I'm also proud to see that I think in the world of women's clothing and beauty, there have been some strides there. An Old Dove campaign comes to mind, but
Mm-hmm.
certainly for like men, and as a man, I think we still have lots of work to do. But for bigger men and hot fat men, there is not enough, and whatever is there is not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, even, I mean, maybe you could speak to this for a moment. Having done modeling for some household names, brands, I've felt that there's a lack of diversity even within the big and tall section for men.
Yeah, they're
I
more focused on tall than big. They're more focused on tall than big, and
Yeah,
that's one of the very frustrating things being within the industry, and a person whose income depends on getting hired by these
yeah,
companies, right?
yeah, yeah.
Both as a model and then with Hot Fat Guy Club as a consultant to
Mhm.
help them oversee their rollouts of their big and tall. When you do ecom work, one of anything that you like, if you go on any website and you look at any of the photos on like individual garments that you're looking to buy on an ecom website, right? Like if you're on walmart.com or jcrew or any of those things,
Mhm.
the ecom photos they're not necessarily heavily edited, but the garments themselves have been heavily doctored to look normal, right?
Mhm.
So, if you look at, let's say, a company that makes button down shirts, right? If the sample doesn't fit the model, they will they will cut open the back of the shirt completely up and
Mhm.
down vertically.
I've
And
heard this. Yeah.
then I forget the name of the fabric. Let's just say that it's moleskin because I think that's what it's called. They will add a huge piece of fabric on the back and just sew that in right on set
Mhm.
and do whatever with clamps and safety pins and God knows
Yeah.
what to
Yeah.
make the front of that look regular. And it's the same thing with pants. They'll
Yeah.
clip the pants, they'll do all of these things. And that is, I understand why they do it, but also that's something, especially when you're dealing with larger sizes and
Right.
different body shapes that are not small, medium, large, that I
But is
think,
that any easier than just making a garment that fits? Like, I don't come from that industry, right? I I have a hard time understanding why cutting a garment open and pinning them and using rubber bands and whatever else is in the workshop instead of just, hey, genius, make a shirt that fits. You know?
Hey, I wish I had a good answer for that because I have asked that question on almost every
Yeah.
set I've ever been on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's frustrating because there like I wish I had the technical skills to make those things, right? And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so unfortunate that when you go, I have to wear suit. I have to buy a new suit in the next like month,
Mm-hmm.
and buying suits as a hot fat guy is so frustrating. I had a friend in college. I went to music conservatory. I had a friend who was a composer, and he was a twig, like a human walking stick. Basically, he was
Mm-hmm.
so skinny. This motherfucker could walk into any H&M, Zara, Uniqlo, J. Crew, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and any stores that had like off the rack suits that were
Mm-hmm.
cheap and looked cool and of that like skinny, slim fit style, right? Could walk into any one of them and it would fit him almost perfectly. Off the
Mm-hmm.
rack, no tailoring, no extra cost, nothing. We have to wear suits for opera auditions. And every suit I've ever bought has had to be custom made, other than the first suit I ever bought, which I learned very quickly that if you don't do custom and if you buy something that is at the shape of my chest, I'm a 52 regular jacket,
Mm-hmm.
um, that the pants that come with it, even if you buy separates, the waist of the pants are going to be like a 50 waist or a 48 waist. And the
Mm-hmm.
fucking butcher job, even if you have the best tailor in the world, the butcher job that goes into making those pants fit,
Yeah.
oh my God. So there,
Yeah.
you have to
You
get
you end up with this
custom.
Frankenstein outfit. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I am so not looking forward to how much money I'm going to have to spend to buy a new
Yeah.
audition suit this year.
Yeah.
And I was always so jealous of Brian that he could walk into any H&M
Fucking A.
and just immediately buy a suit off the rack and he would look like $1 million in it.
Yeah.
And that's not even, if I had all the money in the world to go to do a venture like that, even now, that's not something that we could really do for our demographic
Mm-hmm.
because there are, our body shapes vary so differently that like I
Yeah.
want to figure out a way to get affordable customized options for us, but
Yeah.
we're never going to be off the rack people
Not for
when it comes
formal
to
wear.
suits, when it comes to formal wear,
Yeah.
to formal
Yeah.
wear, yeah, that's specifically what we're talking about. We're never
Yeah.
going to be off the rack people with that,
Yeah.
and it's so fucking frustrating because it means that we have to spend so much more money on something that's so easy for our other friends. And even if I lost 150 pounds right now, if I snap my fingers and 150 pounds were off my body and I weighed 165 pounds, I still wouldn't be able to find stuff off the rack that would look good on me because my rib cage is huge, my shoulders are
Mm.
huge.
Yep.
I'm still big. I would be skinny kind of, but I would still be bigger than everyone and I still wouldn't be able to buy anything off the rack because my shoulders would be too fucking broad
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be able to get any of it. And
Right.
it's so unbelievably frustrating that
Mm-hmm.
that is the situation that we have to deal with constantly.
Yeah.
And I one of my end game goals for the Hot Fat Guy Club is to start our own like high end fashion brand.
Mm-hmm.
And the most underserved demographic in the fashion sector, actually good viable options that when you buy them and try them on and you actually feel good about yourself, but it's so
Yep.
rare that it actually fucking happens now. Like
Very rare.
I don't maybe this has been your experience, but like I do not shop online at all. And the reasons for that are: number one, I can't trust the sizing. Number two, if I buy something, let's say I buy a t-shirt and it's a 2XL and it shows up and it fits me like an Under Armour base layer, right? And it's so tight and it barely
Mm-hmm.
fits and it looks terrible. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be super pissed and my self-esteem is going to take a hit. Um, I mean, not so much now anymore, but let's say my like 19, 20, 21-year-old self, right? But then it's going to fall into the ADHD rabbit hole and I'm never going to send that shit back. And then I might as well just have set
Yeah.
$100 on fire, right?
Yep. 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 Yeah. Well, it's funny. I actually do the opposite. I'll order a few. Oh, I now know for what brand. I literally have like a spreadsheet, like a Google Doc of the brands that I like to shop at and what my size is at those brands. And sometimes it is still a gamble, you
So
know.
who are your favorite go-tos right now?
I've been, you know, the basics. I think Target's house brand, Goodfellow, does a decent job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have been pleasantly surprised with Old Navy.
Yep, Old Navy's good.
Old Navy has been really good, and then the rest are a mixed bag. For denim is great, but then for kind of outdoorsy stuff, I've been happy with Columbia for that type of like windbreakers and that sort of thing. Um, and luckily, accessories we can kind of get from everywhere and anywhere. Um, and I felt there was tremendous potential in bonobos, and I think the only thing that really put me were their chinos.
Mm-hmm.
um, they make great chinos, but I felt like somewhere along the way they kind of bungled their. Well, Walmart sold them.
Wait, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Walmart bought them, and Walmart sold them. Express owns them.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
and
oh.
Express, from what I have been reading, is not doing so great. So I don't know the future of Bonobos. I've always been a huge fan of theirs. I was always very inspired by Andy Dunn's like story and like what he did with it.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I gather, I think after the Walmart transaction, he kind of pieced out and went
Mm-hmm.
on to do other things. But it was a brand I have admired and have high hopes for. Let's see, what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there are. If I could wave a magic wand, and perhaps through the work of Hot Five Guy Club, I think being a consultant to brands like a J Crew and Gap and H&M, can do some real good. I think even potentially revising or doing an audit of the Tommy Hilfigers of the world
Mm-hmm.
and the Ralph Laurens of the world, because people will be willing to spend the same as any other consumer. I never saw it. Never made sense to me that why you know some brands will charge like an upcharge for larger sizes. On
Yeah.
paper, I get it. You're
Yeah.
using more fabric, you're using more material. Just price everything the same. Price
Right.
everything above like $10. You're good. You
Right.
know.
Right.
Um, and ultimately, I don't have the exact numbers, insights, like data to back it up. But based on how many people, at least in America alone, how many people are considered overweight or obese, what brands are carrying not indicative of like the mass consumers. I don't under For me in my head the math isn't mathing, as like
Yeah.
young people say about like if majority of your collection is small, medium, large, XL, but then majority of potential customers are not in that range,
Right.
then like make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand this. Maybe I'm missing. So I see a future in that things will get better, but I think it will not come from people who are on the inside. I think
Yeah.
it'll have to come from
It,
outsiders like
it's
us
as it's
coming
as
in.
if there's like a secret club of all of the CEOs of every fashion company and supplement company and gym
Yeah.
company and the makers of all these weight loss drugs and everything that are just
Mhm.
like, all right, we can't make the fats clothes. We
Yeah.
can't make them clothes, otherwise the whole
Yeah.
thing will fall apart. It's like,
Yeah.
come, no, we
Yeah.
still need clothes to go to like if we want to make life changes, we still need the clothes to make the fucking life changes. Like,
Yeah.
ah,
Exactly.
ah.
Yeah. Very. Oh man, yeah. I mean, we could definitely. I could probably do 24 hours on this topic,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I
like
also
god
want to
damn it,
be.
I just want to wear some fucking high-end shit. I want to walk into fucking Zania and be able to buy a suit in my size off the motherfucker, like that will need tailoring regardless, off the motherfucking rack that I can feel
Yeah,
fucking good in. I want to
yeah,
dress like Pierce fucking Brosnan at Wimbledon. God damn.
yeah.
So, all right, so technically to
Hmm.
transition out of this, because I could also talk about this forever.
Yeah,
This is technically a dating advice podcast. This is the whole reason that we've started doing
yeah.
the hot fat chat conversation. So, how's your
All
dating life, Varun?
right. It's been, it's been good. In the last few months, or I want to say since the top of the year, it's taken a little bit of a back seat. Just sorting out, professional endeavors and all that fun stuff. The
Mm-hmm.
9 to 5. I only recently exited from like the 9 to 5 grind,
Right.
and there's no slowing down on a corporate hamster wheel.
Yep.
You just sort of have to like take a leap of faith. That's
Right.
kind of what I did. And you know, um, I can't like live in an alternate reality where being a hot fat guy has its subjective impact, just like on someone's dating life, and different people find their flow and their arena and their channels to meet people.
Mm-hmm.
I think like it like online dating, particularly apps, was never necessarily where I found like an abundance of like love and matches and stuff like that.
Dating apps are a
um
disaster anyway.
I'm very old school. Like when I meet someone or I see someone in person, I feel if there's a connection there, there's an attraction, then I over the years have grown a lot more comfortable in approaching somebody, and um, I feel far more confident and comfortable opening a dialogue in person than I do constantly thinking of like witty things to
Mm-hmm.
say on a dating app, whether it's Hinge, whether it's Tinder. And one thing I've kind of expressed is in addition to not only being a hot fat guy on a dating app, but especially as someone even in the Indian community, like colorism is a very real thing, and
Mm-hmm.
people who are fair and people who have a lighter complexion tend to fare, pun intended, better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big how do you say the term like was it tall, dark, and handsome,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't that does not exist
Yeah.
in our community. And the fact that there are products out there that literally lighten your skin, and some of them are dangerous for your skin, and they've really it really kind of fucks up your skin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful to have family and friends who like never let those like that train of thought ever kind of consume me.
Mm-hmm.
And also I think as I also got older, as I started to become more sure of myself, I think that played a major part in my confidence in attracting dates. And I yeah, it's been it's been a fun journey. I think a little bit of a roller coaster in that a lot of people have this relationship with dating. This is not counting if they're in a committed relationship,
Mm-hmm.
monogamous committed relationship. You kind of go through this period of you're really excited about dating, and then you're kind of over it because
Mm-hmm.
you either had one too many bad dates, or not getting enough matches, which is, there's a statistic out there that 5% of men get 95% of the matches.
Yep.
And it's a very real thing. And so I said, to hell with it. I'm going to go old school with it, and very, asking somebody for their number, and I'll call, like,
Mm-hmm.
sue me. I left a voicemail. Like, that's just who I am. And there's something to be said. I think, like, for the longest time, the world kind of did that, right?
Yeah.
Whether short term fun or a long, deep committed relationship that leads to like a marriage. It was letters and it was phone calls, and I'm still that way. Um and so, yeah, I used to be very closed off to long distance, and now I have the privilege to work um on different things that is location agnostic. And
Mm-hmm.
so, uh, I think if and when I meet somebody that has, piqued my curiosity and it really challenges me, I won't shy away from it because of distance. I used to
Mm-hmm.
be like, no, thank you. If it, years ago. Now, I recently turned 35. I am now, for the first time, very much in a mindset to date with intention of like a life partner.
Mm-hmm.
And is that a rat race to, the altar? No. But it's, with intention to meet somebody, creatively connect, physically connect, emotionally connect, and envision a future together, share interests, teach new things, learn new things. And so I'm kind of feeling for that old school love a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, marriage is a little more on my mind than it's ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the next couple of years, I think dating is going to be really, I think, pretty special, I think.
Fun. Good. Yeah, I mean, you're moving to a big city soon too, so I think that'll definitely be
Mhm.
easier. This is a line that comes up on literally every single episode whenever we talk about any of the dating
Yeah.
stuff. This backlight behind me is killing me.
No, you're good. You're good.
But when you live in a place that literally has more people in it in a condensed area, that
Hmm.
makes dating easier. And typically, when
Yeah.
you're in a city versus in the middle of nowhere in Iowa, people are a little bit more open minded to all different types of people, and all what you look like matters so much less than who
Hmm.
you are and how you present yourself and how you treat the other people and how emotionally intelligent and self-aware and all of those things. And it's a very liberating feeling to get out into, to be in a big city with a larger pool of people that you can have access to.
And not only a bigger pool, but I think people with varied perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
and people who potentially come from different places, and are, I had spent a little bit brief time in New York, and I remember it being my favorite time when it came to dating, just meeting new people in general, like
Mm-hmm.
socializing. And now Chicago is where I'm going to next. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm really pumped. Honestly, there's a lot more culture, a lot more, I think, diversity, a lot more things happening in the world of like culture and arts. and
Right.
and I think also just being in Texas, like, um in the South, people tend to settle down earlier, and they get married earlier, and they feel this pressure to buy a house sooner and have kids, and which is absolutely wonderful for those whom want that, but also who found that. But I, being someone who works in creative fields, and I feel very drawn to people who are creatively expressive. I didn't necessarily fare all that well in cities like Dallas and Austin.
Yep.
And so I'm actually pretty pumped to, like, look outside the Lone Star State for love, and I think it's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be pretty great.
Where did you grow up again? I forgot.
Yeah. I was born in New Orleans. I was
Okay.
there for 10 years, but pretty much, the last 2 decades I've been in Texas, and I grew up in a suburb of
Yeah, we
Dallas
got to
called
get you out of
Plano.
Texas.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, we got to get you out of Texas.
yeah. Oh
I
man.
made Friday Night Lights is on Netflix right now,
Mm,
and I made
great show.
Kelly. Oh, great fucking show!
Yeah,
God, it's so good. I
yeah,
made Kelly watch it with me. Watch the first episode with me last night. And she was like, "You make fun of everything I ever watch," and I was like, no comment.
yeah.
And one of the scenes with Tim Riggins and Tyra or whatever her name is, she was like, "They're in high school," which is one of my like go-to lines of shit that we're watching. And I was like, "Texas, this is high school football. Don't relax. It's fine.
Yeah,
The whole
yeah.
world revolves around this." But it's so I was just thinking, I just like had a thought of like, man, how much I idolized that when I played high school football and I like
Hmm.
wanted to be a high school football celebrity in a small Texas town. And now as an
Yeah.
adult, I'm like, boy, was I fucking wrong.
Well, part of me, I think, is it's really inspiring, really cool to see, like other, like growing up, it was, like if you were the cool kid, you were usually an athlete, or something adjacent to athletics. I just love that, like, the arts are being embraced so much more, and alt lifestyles, and like nerd culture, and like I just think is really cool, and like
Yeah.
in the best way, I feel for, like I have a lot of just hope for like younger people, which is
Right.
great. And yeah, yeah, like I think in an alternate, had I done it all over again, I think I would have, left Texas sooner. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was already like an uphill battle to pursue something like marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly grateful to my, like parents and everything, but a lot of times the defaults tend to be like doctor or engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and now I love to see a lot of Indian and South Asian parents like support, the arts. And like, had I done it all over again, I would have maybe pursued acting. I think if NYU Tish would have had me,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been kind of cool, you know.
Yep.
And yeah, I would have gotten kind of exposure to a bigger city earlier in my life.
Yep.
But look, I mean, we don't know how much time we're guaranteed on this earth, so I'm ready for some cooler weather where I can rock a lot of autumn looks.
Yep.
And yeah, I think I'm planning on getting, I think, a dog soon as well. I
Do
think
it.
it's really gonna
Do
pump
it.
up. It's
Do
gonna
it.
help my ADHD. I think it's gonna help so with the socializing as well. And honestly, I already know, like, this is going to be happening.
Yeah,
So
it'll be the best worst decision you ever made in your entire life.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
do it.
remember. I remember your bond with yours.
Oh yeah, he runs the whole house.
Yeah,
Yeah, he runs the whole house. My sweet boy.
yeah,
All right. Well, Varun, we are just about out of time. Is there any last thing that you want to cover before we hop off today?
yeah. No, honestly, I'm just appreciative that you had me on. You and I can always talk for hours, if not days.
Yep.
I love what is, going on with Hot Fat Guy Club. It's been incredible keeping up with the podcast and with the journey so far. I'm excited being a part of it in whatever way I can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just really pumped. I'm appreciative of you having me on, and I can't wait to hear the episode and share it with my tribe and my people in my life. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, Varun, thank you so much. You indeed, sir, are a certified hot fat guy. Thank you to everyone who's listening. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe and do all of the things. Hotfatguyclub.com. Stay hot, stay fat, my friends, and most importantly, take up space. All right. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.